Welcome into the Paul Farrington Show. Paul joined by Robert Ziggy Ziegler up at Harvard University for an NFL Combine reaction show, Ziggy. A lot of news out of the Combine, some exciting performances this weekend. I don't know how much of it you watched, but I mean, record-setting Combine as far as...
Paul, this is why I don't watch hockey. It's
Yeah,
I can go all in on the Combine.
I know, and it's fun. You know, a lot of people I was listening to this weekend were coming out with almost arguments against the Combine. And I've always been a fan. Like, I've always enjoyed it. It's not that I'm sitting down on mid-Saturday, even with the QBs, running backs, and receivers, and I'm glued to my television all day long. But, you know, I'll throw it on in the morning and I'll see just like the highlights of it, or if they're having a rerun in the morning as I'm having my coffee. I think it's a good background event to have on. Yes, it's not ass in seats kind of viewing, but I'm not in favor of shutting it down. I mean, some people came out this weekend and they're like, yeah, tired of this event. It doesn't really do anything. It's just kind of a nice event.
Well, no one's making you watch it.
No one's making anyone watch it. And I think it's cool when guys run the 40. Like, yes.
Like, the NFL is going to do this regardless. I'd rather it be on TV.
Yeah, the best part of it, to me, yeah, it's Rich Eisen racing against the guys. Like, that is my favorite part of the NFL Combine. But just because something may not be super useful doesn't mean it's still not an enjoyable process. Like, I still think it's fun. I know that guys go there and they have all the answers to all the questions already. You're probably getting less out of the interviews, but I don't
think that's true.
I don't totally agree with it, but that's the argument you're hearing.
If you believe that every single one of these guys can perfectly prep for an interview, you're crazy.
Well, a lot of people say the difference between having someone for, 10 to 20 minutes as opposed to if they come to your organization for a real in-person interview and you have them for a full day, it's, can you fake it? You can't fake it for a full day. Can you fake it for 20 minutes?
Yeah, but the thing is you only get 30 visits with prospects. So a lot of what teams are doing at the Combine is figuring out, like, look, if you're a team between 11 and 20 who wants a running back, you're going to invite Jeremiyah Love. Who else are you going to invite among the running backs? You can get a look and see, okay, we like this guy. There's some promising things here. Like, the Combine is a chance for guys to impress teams to get one of those visits.
Yes, exactly. And that's another thing that I feel like people have forgotten is, someone like, I know Sonny Styles is going to be a high pick, but like, look at what it did for him, right? This week with the performance that he had, send all these records. You see, Jeremiyah Love, I know he's someone who's going to go high, but just being out there competing, him answering questions, right? And he had great interviews all weekend long. Teams are seeing that. People are seeing that. And you're getting buzz. Sadiq, right? The Oregon tight end who set the Combine record for a tight end, like in the 40-yard dash. These guys are getting big time exposure in this moment. And I still think for a couple people, right, it is a life-changing event. So I like it. I've always enjoyed it. I totally disagree with people who are anti-Combine.
It gives us something to talk about on our show at the end of February, beginning of March.
It
please don't get rid of it, NFL.
It's amazing that people tune into the NFL Combine. When you really, when you think about it, what it is.
After we just spent all this time defending the Combine, let's get real.
No, but it is nuts that people watch. The NBA Combine, it doesn't even sniff my attention. NHL, I don't even know
what John Hollinger had to say about here's the 5 guys that impressed in 5-on-5s, and that's it.
Yeah. I just, the NFL really is just an unbelievable machine. All right, so if you're enjoying the show, and we're a little over 29.5 thousand subscribers right now, would love for now.
We've been slowly bleeding.
Well, it's that part of the season. We'd love for you to hit the subscribe button. We can absolutely, as Ziggy has showed, we could use the help.
Reverse the trend.
Trend. Yeah, we'd love to get to 30,000 subscribers at some point. It'll happen eventually, you'd think, but you never know. I mean, some shows just bleed subscribers until it's over. And who knows? Maybe I'll lose the channel again, right? I've shown an ability to give out our information to places it shouldn't go that can compromise the show.
Well, it's like YouTube Analytics says that something like 60% of our viewers are people that aren't subscribed and have only watched us a few times. So if that's you and you like it, you got to subscribe.
Well, yeah, we'll love it. Today we'll go over some of the Combine performances, that caught our attention. A little Fernando Mendoza article came out that was interesting, ranking him among recent past 5-year first round quarterbacks that were taken. Some big Viking news out of the Combine, some big NFC North news out of the Combine. Some true, some not. We're going to try and decipher where the truth actually is in these reports. I do want to just mention a couple of the standout performances. I know I said them briefly off the top. But Mississippi State's Brennan Thompson, 4.26, 40-yard dash. I love the Eisen race next to these guys because it does show you, like, I know Eisen's in his mid to late 50s, but it shows you a somewhat normal person running against these dudes.
And Rich Eisen is not slow, by the way.
Yeah, he's like, well, I remember years ago he broke 6 seconds, which I think was the big thing. But it's amazing. Like, these guys are just superhuman. I don't know how. I really don't know how I'm the same species as these guys with their speed, their strength, their jumping ability. Like, I'd love if they just had one regular person at the combine doing all the drills, and to really appreciate, the superhuman feats of these dudes. Sonny Styles, the linebacker from Ohio State, I mentioned him a moment ago. He had one of the best combines you'll see. He's 6'5", 244 pounds. And just to read off a couple of the stats, led all linebackers in the 40-yard dash, 4.46 seconds. Led all linebackers in the vertical jump, 4th all-time, tied for in the broad jump among linebackers. This is a dude who was a 5-star in football, 4-star in basketball coming out of high school, and played nickel cornerback at Ohio State before being switched out to linebacker, jumping 30 pounds, right? So just a freak athlete, Sonny Styles. Brother of Lorenzo Styles, right? Former Notre Dame guy who moved to Ohio State. And then I said before, the 2 tight ends, Kenyon Sadiq and Vanderbilt's Eli Stowers, right? Stowers or Stowers? I think it's Stowers. I'm pretty sure it's Stowers. Had just great combines for tight ends. Some record-setting numbers in the jumps for them. And Sadiq's 40-yard dash, the all-time fastest for a tight end at 4.39 seconds. So some big-time numbers there. We'll see how that impacts their draft stock. But the guy we're going to start off.
You didn't read off the best combine. It's not the person you're about to say either.
Go ahead.
It was a Spencer Fano, the tackle out of Utah.
Yeah, he's supposed to be a top 10 pick.
NFL scouts know the single best predictor among any combine drill for tackles is a 3-cone, and he put up an unreal 3-cone time.
See, this is the thing. Like in the broad jump, in the vertical jump, in the 40-yard dash, you could get I'll get my attention. I'm not really watching. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm not watching
the only one that matters, which is what's fun.
I know.
But like, you have to keep in mind, this is a guy who's 6'6", 310 pounds, and he's doing the 3-cone in 7.3 seconds.
See, I have no measure for that. That's why it's important to have someone. They should just tell
you that's only a little bit slower than what Malachi Fields, the wide receiver out of Notre Dame, did.
Yeah, there you go. There's
for
the good
a tackle
comparison.
to be running a time in the same stratosphere.
How much does he weigh?
Competent wide receiver, 310 pounds.
We should just get a random 310 pound guy. Put him there.
They might not finish the 3-cone.
They might not finish it, but that would help you appreciate it a little bit more. So we're not going to bore everyone to death just with the numbers of the 3 cones and the 40-yard dashes and the vertical and broad jumps. Let's get into some of the real questions we have coming out of the combine. Our favorite player in the combine or in the draft. I shouldn't say
maybe my in football favorite. After how he treated us at the draft.
Yeah, maybe our favorite player, Jeremiyah Love, the Notre Dame running back. He was another guy who stole the show. 4.36 40-yard dash. Again, great job with his interviews, right? He said he's going to have a chocolate shake, which he's been craving for this entire process after the combine.
You know who he didn't wow was his dad.
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw that, but after the 40-yard dash, his dad just looked. This is how you know that the dad is legit, as he just looks at his son running a 4.36, the second fastest the combine, and just frowns and shakes his head. It's like, I know you can do better, man. Come on.
So we're gonna get a little bit of Jeremiyah Love talk right here. The top of the draft, the top 10 picks, right? The Raiders are going to take Mendoza. The Jets, in all likelihood, are going to go defensive, it looks like, with that pick at number 2. Then Arizona's at 3, Tennessee 4. The Giants round out your top 5. After that, you have Cleveland, Washington, New Orleans. Kansas City's a big landing spot for Love in mock drafts, and the Bengals. How high can you actually see Jeremiyah Love going?
The thing about the NFL draft always is you just need one team to be impressed with you and you can get picked. And there's a lot to be excited about with Jeremiyah Love, right? Athletically, he's unbelievable. Production-wise, he was unbelievable. When the quarterbacks were good at Notre Dame, he was effective. When the quarterbacks were bad at Notre Dame, he was effective. When the offensive line was healthy, he was effective. When the offensive line was unhealthy, he was effective. Anything they asked him to do, he did at a top level in college. And when you combine that with an incredibly athletic player, I'm not going to say he's at the Bijan Robinson tier, but he's just below that, I think, in terms of how teams are thinking about him.
So how high do you think he can go? I mean, that's a great political answer. There's like, yeah, you give a great answer. It seems like it's fulfilling, but you didn't. The question: how high can he go?
So I don't think any team's going to trade up for him. I think that's pretty unlikely. The highest up I can see him going is number 8 to the Saints. There's been chatter that the Titans were excited. I have a hard time seeing the Titans taking him at 4. 8, though, you've got your quarterback. You've got an okay offensive line. Yeah, you need a wide receiver 1, but the wide receivers are looking a lot better in round 2 than round 1. You need an explosive weapon on offense. The Saints, I think, are the highest viable landing spot.
So this is where I've been mulling around this question in my head for the past few days, because I have a few friends who are Arizona Cardinals fans who are reaching out saying, man, I love Jeremiyah Love. I would love to have him. And the Cardinals at 3, do I think Jeremiyah Love is the best player in this draft? Yes, I do. I think he's
at worst the second best.
At worst the second best. Who with Mendoza 1?
Yeah, I like Mendoza a lot.
Sure. So for most people, he is either the first or second best player overall in the draft, right? Being a running back now is where his draft selection spot comes into question. And when you're in a spot like Arizona, where there are just so many holes on that team, right? Along the offensive line, quarterback's the biggest one. They're probably going to cut Kyler Murray coming up here. Defensively, there's a bunch of places they can go. You start to wonder, do you really want to invest this capital into a running back, right? Or go after one of the elite defensive players? You very well could get the number 2 overall defensive player in the draft, right? Because the Jets are probably going to take someone. Would you rather go edge there, right? There's so many options they could look to. And I think my bias for Notre Dame and for running backs, right, as a kid who grew up watching Adrian Peterson, starts to kind of muddle my answer, because I'd love to just say the Cardinals should go and draft Jeremiyah Love. But you think about the long-term success of this team. It's like, all right, by the time you're really ready to go, you're going to have Jeremiyah Love, probably like 26 years old. So, and that's if everything goes really well, if you get your quarterback. So when I think about it like that, I'm like, all right, it could work. Can you see a world where Arizona maybe pulls the trigger?
It is possible. And if you look at prediction markets, obviously those aren't perfect. They've got something like a 40% chance of Jeremiyah Love going in the top 5 and basically a 40% chance of going to the Cardinals at number 4.
Yeah.
So in fact, that's basically the only top 5 spot people can see. My view is just team building wise, I can't make sense of that choice.
Well,
whether it's like Sonny Styles or David Bailey or Arvo Reese, I don't think as prospects, those guys are that much worse than Jeremiyah Love. And look, if you're the Cardinals at running back for the next 3 or 4 years, which is when Jeremiyah Love is the most valuable, you don't need anything more than basic competence at running back. You need to build an entire roster.
The problem I have, though, is I really think he's a surefire thing. And I know there is no surefire lock to be a superstar, but if you said pick one in this draft, it's Jeremiyah Love. So the debate that I have is, yes, do I think it's the best team building exercise? No, but do I think you get a home run hitter in Love at number 3, a superstar, right? Like, if you told me you can get Saquon Barkley, would you take him at 3? There are some Giants fans who wouldn't do it, but I think the value is worth it for those guys.
Yeah, the problem is if you hit big, the reward is so much less than hitting big on any other position you can take there.
In the long term, given the contracts, yes. Outside of
even setting aside the contracts thing, right? What could the Panthers get for prime Christian McCaffrey? What could the Giants get for prime Saquon Barkley?
But I do think the impact of an elite running back is undervalued in the league. It had the surge 2 seasons ago. But yeah, I mean, you saw what Saquon Barkley did to the Eagles. You see what Derrick Henry does to the teams he goes to. Like, they are game changers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but if I'm the Arizona Cardinals, what you have to do when you have no talent on your roster, The Cardinals have maybe a single good player. That like they're in an unusually talent bare situation. I think you've got to go for the player that if they hit is going to be a lot more valuable around the league.
It would be hard if I were the GM in Arizona, though. If Love will be on the board, and you can think, okay, we will have Marvin Harrison, McBride, Jeremiyah Love, and then we just start filling in this roster. And once you get your QB,
you'll have no quarterback and no defense.
I know. It's a big if on that. But I look down the board more, and you don't, right? You draft for what you need. So I'm imagining most teams here are going to go with, offensive lineman, defense, continue to build there. When it gets to Kansas City at 9, it's not a situation where it's like, you can't let Love fall there. But if Love does fall there and he's on the board, that is just a home run pick for me. If you're KC, a team that needs some skill position players. Like, listen, I saw this guy, Ziggy and I saw this guy play more than anyone listening, unless you're a Notre Dame fan, right? If
you're a Notre Dame
even
fan,
if you watched
every single play.
We've watched every play. I've been at more games than probably 99.9% of the people listening. I told you 2 years ago, this was the best player in college football. I would say from the time I started going to school there in 2017, it was Quentin Nelson, Kyle Hamilton, and Jeremiyah Love are the 3 best players that I saw. I mean, Joe Alt was also awesome, but those are probably the 3 best players I saw at Notre Dame. This guy's the real deal. I mean, it is not an over-exaggeration here, what people are saying, how good this guy is. If Kansas City's on the board at 9, or if he's on the board for Kansas City at 9, and you have the chance to give Patrick Mahomes a weapon like this, I think it will completely change the dynamic of the AFC to me.
And the thing is, right, like the reason people rag on running backs, they say, well, as a pick, you're getting the most value out of that in the first 2 or 3 years rather than maximizing your return over the next 10 or whatever. If you're Kansas City, you need production now. Your goal is to go from having the number 9 overall pick to winning a Super Bowl. So taking, say, some of the other players that'll be available, there's a great corner coming off an ACL tear. There's wide receivers who profile more like good NFL players than great. Like if you're asking me Jeremiyah Love or Jermid McCoy or Makai Lemon, it's so easy.
Jeremiyah Love faced the lowest rate of light boxes among all the running backs this year in the draft. It was 35.2% of his attempts. So that means 6 or less defenders in the box, right? When he did face 6 or less defenders on 70 attempts, he averaged 9.1 yards per carry, which was the best in the country. Can you just imagine, it's a pick your poison for Kansas City. And when you're playing Kansas City, do you go with the light box and you let Jeremiyah Love run right through you? Or are you going to load the box and give Patrick Mahomes some one-on-ones? I think it is such a slam dunk pick, and it's such a fortunate situation for, I'm sure, other AFC fans who are listening to this. When the Kansas City's on the clock and they make this pick, you're going to go, of course, right? Of course, the uber talented running back falls to them the year they need it, and they just somehow end up in the top 10 here. It's a very fortunate situation. I think it's going to work out for them.
And it's not like there's a player like Malik Neighbors that they can take in the first round here. If they were passing up on that kind of wide receiver prospect, I'd get it. There's not even really like a Jamison Williams or Chris Olave. I'm unimpressed by the wide receivers at the top of this draft.
Yeah, me too.
Like you're not passing on Jamar Chase or Jalen Waddle. I think this is the rare situation where for Kansas City, this makes a world of sense. And I'll tell you, Paul, I hate that.
It's the classic test for me. When I'm getting ready to evaluate players before the draft, right? And we don't do a ton of in-depth draft coverage the way some channels do. Like this is not there's no Mel Kiper on this show, but I think one of the most overlooked things, pieces of evaluation that people actually use is game footage, right? That's why the combine, as much as we said we just enjoy it, people get way too caught up in measurements and answers to questions. Like,
the best drafting team in the NFL, the Rams, don't send anyone there except their doctors.
Yes. What should you be looking at? How did you play on the field? I'll never be able to wrap my head around watching Kyle Hamilton his junior season, and he runs a 4.5 something 40-yard dash, and people go, oh well, there he goes out of the top 10. Did you watch him in the game? Like,
Yeah,
did you watch
Baltimore
the
wasn't
games?
fooled. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, and to me, that's what I'm saying with Jeremiyah Love here. It's turn on the tape and watch this. If he gets there tonight, Kansas City will take him. I don't think he's going to get
Kansas City doesn't.
Oh,
there's not a lot of teams looking for quarterbacks or running backs until number 18.
Yeah, if the Vikings,
I mean, look, I can say, if you're a fan of the Lions or the Bucks or the Chiefs or the Ravens, Jeremiyah Love is such a jerk. You don't want this guy on your team. You need to call your GM right now and say, I'm canceling my season tickets if you draft him. If you're a Vikings fan, okay, everybody else, fans of every other team, turn it off for a second. Press the mute button. Vikings fans, we've got to get this guy on the team. Aaron Jones is gone. That's the latest out of Minnesota. We need him so badly.
So there was a report that came out of the combine from Tony Pauline, who, what was the name of the place he's at?
Essentially Sports.
That said the Vikings are actively shopping JJ McCarthy.
Or at least he didn't say they were trying to trade him right away. He said the Vikings have moved on from
JJ McCarthy. And that seems contrary to every single thing we've seen otherwise. I mean, we know the Vikings have interest in bringing in another quarterback to at least compete with JJ and at least, give them another option just in case. But
I don't think it's contradictory of what we've seen.
Really?
I mean, the Vikings are never going to come out and say we are trading JJ McCarthy or we don't want him to start next year or we think he sucks. But every single time they've had a chance to say, do you believe in JJ McCarthy since the season has ended? It's been, we're keeping all our options open. All the rumors are the Vikings are desperate for a quarterback to trade. Everything that's coming out of here suggests that they don't want JJ McCarthy to start.
It doesn't
when you
make
say
feel
things
good.
like, we're hoping that we can bring the best out of JJ McCarthy. Come on.
I still think they've been support. Yes, maybe it hasn't been 100% behind the guy, but I still feel like
you want to take out like a JJ McCarthy pinata and start beating it with a bat.
I still think that they're making it sound like they would love for JJ McCarthy to be the guy, but they know right in the back of their minds that JJ was very injury prone this year. When he did play, most of the time he did not look great, and it's a very uncomfortable situation for the Vikings to be in. So you saw Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano put out a what we learned from the combine, and Fowler said he's getting the sense that there are two tiers of veteran quarterbacks the Vikings are looking at. Tier 1 would be Kyler Murray and Geno Smith, and Tier 2 would be Tua Tagovailoa and Kirk Cousins for a veteran Minnesota can bring in. Now, Aaron Rodgers.
But how did we get here?
I know.
You're telling me that Tier 1 starts with Geno Smith.
No, I know. And the more I look into it, Andy asked us how excited we would be for Geno, and I said 0 out of 10. The more I'm
might be going down.
The more I'm starting to think about this, Ziggy. And right now, by the way, all those guys are on other teams. They're probably, in all likelihood, some combination of them, if not all, are going to be cut. But, Aaron Rodgers was left off that list, and we'll get to Aaron in a second here. Of the four of them, Kyler, Geno, Kirk, and Tua, I actually am starting to think Geno might wind up being the guy. It makes the most sense of the timelines, right? Kirk coming with the injury, and when he did play, he was okay last year at times. Tua and Kyler are weird. Those are uncomfortable situations where I probably would be the most excited for one of those two, Kyler being number one. But if you bring in Kyler Murray, that really disrupts the McCarthy development to me. That's more of a moving on from JJ if Kyler were to win the job. Whereas Geno, you can actually have him as a 1-year gap quarterback. That is also disrupting the development of JJ, but it's more of
you can bench Geno Smith at any time.
Yes,
it's okay.
Yes. Kyler is going to be a bigger storyline when the Vikings, if they were to bench him mid-season. And he's someone that could win the job for years to come. So, we really need to pay attention to this story and where the Vikings are looking at, because while those guys, are all veterans who can come in, they're very different indicators to me of how the Vikings actually feel about JJ. Do you want him to be someone who's just taking a little break here and taking some time to learn? Or are you actually trying to move on from him? Because if you get Kyler Murray, it feels to me like they're giving up on him in a sense. Do you feel the same way?
I agree. Though I'm not sure, we can sit back and say Kyler Murray is a guy where it feels like they're moving on from. But Kyler Murray is also getting cut by a Cardinals team that has no other options at quarterback.
Yes.
Right? They've completely given up on him just as a player. So it's not as if, and nobody wants to trade for him either. It's not as if we're bringing Kyler Murray as a huge commitment if he's signing a cheap deal and hoping to start. But it feels like when the Colts brought in Daniel Jones, like Kyler Murray feel like Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, right? The expectation is that Kyler Murray will win the job, and the expectation is that JJ McCarthy's not really getting another chance unless he stands out.
Yeah, or Kyler's just really bad.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, if Kyler sucks, then we're just screwed.
So I'm thinking right now, and Graziano reported that a lot of teams around the league, a lot of coaches feel like the Raiders held Geno Smith back. That if he gets cut, and the Raiders might not do that because they might want to have Mendoza sit for a bit, and Geno is a good guy, I guess, that you can have as a transition quarterback. But that's the problem for the Vikings. Like, I just don't want to start another process where we have a transition quarterback back into, like, we're transitioning back into JJ. To me, it's, if you're going to go down the Geno route, he's not going to propel us to a Super Bowl. I can't see that being the case.
He probably won't propel us to the playoffs, if we're being honest.
I know, and I like Geno Smith. He's a nice guy, great story. And even if the Raiders did hold him back, you saw what happened in Seattle. When you put Sam Darnold in there, that offense hummed a little bit more, right, than when Geno Smith was there. Geno is not elevating us to the level we want to get to. I don't know if anyone really, other than if you get lucky with Rodgers, is going to do that. The best path in all likelihood is probably just rolling with JJ and hoping that he takes the jump. That's to me is the path that I'd rather go down than Geno Smith.
Well, there's one other thing I'm thinking, Paul. If you're going to bring in someone like Geno Smith and you don't believe in JJ McCarthy, the Vikings, I guarantee you, will be closely evaluating the quarterbacks in this draft. And I would not be surprised to see him take a quarterback in the second or third round. Now, a lot of Vikings fans are going to say that either that's impossible or I'd be really unhappy or whatever. But the quarterbacks we're listing, you can agree, none of them are likely to be long-term solutions for the Vikings at quarterback.
It depends. Kyler, it depends what happens with Kyler would be someone. Tua is another guy that it's just too optimistic. You're being optimistic. You cannot realistically expect. It's not like we're getting a chance to bring in Drew Brees when he was injured on the Chargers. No, the options are not good this offseason. What that means is if you aren't confident those guys are the future and you aren't confident JJ McCarthy is the future, and I think that's where the Vikings are, drafting a quarterback you like and getting a Chambliss or a Nussmeier or a Carson Beck in the building and seeing what you've got is something the Vikings are going to consider. Yeah, they're going to consider it. If they did it second round, I might be a little upset. If you took a third round flyer or fourth round flyer, I'd be okay with it. If they go Ty Simpson round 2, I'm not going to be thrilled with it. I was never a big believer in Ty Simpson. I thought in the biggest games, I know he had the back issue going on. He just never, the eye test didn't pass for me with these guys. I know, right, very accurate or decent accuracy, right? Arm talent is okay, but I don't think Ty Simpson is a guy the Vikings are going to want. No, and Nussmeier, he has accuracy problems, inconsistent, gets like one of his weaknesses is gets rattled. I don't, in Minnesota, you get rattled as a Viking quarterback. We know when that's going to hurt you. So I'm not thrilled with any of the prospects in this draft class, but if they were to take somebody, a mid-round pick would be just so much preferred than for them to get aggressive in round 2 and try and make a big play. The choice for me still, of all the quarterbacks, it's still Aaron Rodgers. And the reports right now are that mid-March he'll have a decision, and it's in all likelihood it's going to be the Steelers. I'm not totally sold on it yet, and I have no insider info. But if I'm Aaron Rodgers, as long as he's able to get over the Vikings passing on him last year, because I wouldn't put it past Aaron, and I'm not saying that this is wrong either. The Vikings said no to him last year. They said, nope, we're going to go with JJ McCarthy. We know Aaron Rodgers wanted to go there. Would it surprise anyone if Aaron Rodgers felt, a little disrespected from that? And if the Vikings come
you're
calling,
saying Aaron Rodgers, when somebody says no to him, might become offended?
yeah, I might feel a little bit disrespected. And if the Vikings come calling this year, he's got every right to say, just screw off, guys. I wanted to come there last year. We could have been something. And here you are stuck in this dilemma now. You made your own bed. Now you have to sleep in it. So
and even then, right? Like if you look at what people like Graziano are reporting, Aaron Rodgers still isn't choice number one for the Vikings.
I know. It still isn't. But I'm wondering if that's more because they expect him to be a Steeler if he were to return. And that's the report right now. If he does return, it seems like he'll be a Steeler. If there's not a grudge held, which with Aaron Rodgers, yes, it seems like, he's someone who holds grudges. But if there's not, the Vikings just make so much more sense than Pittsburgh. And it's a shame Jack's not here right now. He's a little under the weather because I'm sure this would turn into a gigantic argument. But Minnesota is just a much better place if you want an opportunity to win one more time. And this is in all likelihood, Rodgers' final season. The situation and the team around you is just better in Minnesota. It's really not close compared to Pittsburgh for 1 year. So I'm not ruling out Aaron Rodgers yet. I think it's still a really good match. And what does it offer you that Geno doesn't? The ceiling is just so much higher. And it still gives you that opportunity to, yes, you can compete this year with a team you feel is ready to win now. Aaron mentors JJ. And then you can kind of evaluate JJ again next year and go from there. But I that's still my preferred path and still a path that I think is open as long as there's not hurt feelings.
I understand why you would say that. I know it's tempting to believe in another year of Aaron Rodgers. It's just hard. I can't imagine the Minnesota Vikings want to deal with everything that's going to come with the last year of Aaron Rodgers. And you can hope there were stretches where he was good last year, and I can understand why you would believe that he can harness that. But this is a guy who's going to wait until the last second to decide whether he wants to play football. And he's going to wait until the last second to tell the Steelers. If he tells them until no, he's going to wait until the last second to tell the Minnesota Vikings he wants to come. And we can't deal with that. We need to know what we're doing now.
Look, though, Ziggy, like the Vikings got to make up their mind. Do they want to compete or do they not? Like that's sort of what it needs to be. And there is value, right, in embracing that you might just suck. It can be very good. The Patriots got Drake May because they were horrible, not because they won 7 or 8, 9 games, because they were really bad for a couple of years. Like there is true value in being bad. And if the Vikings say, oh, we want to still be competitive, and you bring in Geno and you win 8 games again, and then Geno Smith retires, it's like, okay, did we really was that worth it? And we didn't learn anything about JJ. We are still mediocre. That's where I'm going to get annoyed with us if we go and we bring in, if we bring Kirk in and win 9 games, 8 games. It's like, what are we doing? Like, how are we actually getting better from this or learning anything, right? If you play JJ, at least next year, if he sucks, okay, he sucks. It's over. And if he's decent, the problem is he'd probably be just average enough where you'd bring him back for a third year. But I just want to commit to something. And I think Geno Smith is the neutral decision. And for Rodgers, I have no idea why he'd want to go back to Pittsburgh. Like they're not winning in Pittsburgh.
I get why you would want to see what happens with Aaron Rodgers in Minnesota.
Yeah, because I think it could work. I think it can actually achieve the goal of if this works, they can be really good. I don't see them being really good with anyone other than. I think Kyler has a chance and probably Tua, but we just know how it ends with Tua most seasons. So,
most seasons, the good season with Tua is if you get murdered in the first round.
Yeah. Kyler would be after Rodgers the most exciting option to me. Because, I do think Kyler Murray's a good player. I know last year dealt with all the injuries, hasn't been the same for a while. He's still explosive and, with a good team around him, give him Justin Jefferson. Like that could be fun. That could be a lot of fun. Okay, so an interesting article came out. Matt Miller from ESPN, he ranked the first round drafted quarterbacks and then included Fernando Mendoza over the past 5 years of how they were as prospects. Okay, not anything about their NFL careers. Prospects coming into the draft, and his top 10, we did have a little bit of an interesting couple guys towards the bottom. The top 10 went Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, Jaden Daniels, top 3. I think that's probably right. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that seems right.
You might be able to. Caleb and Trevor. I mean, those two are in a different class.
I would put Trevor ahead of Caleb, but otherwise,
yes,
I think that's
those two are in a different class.
Those are definitely the top 3.
And I think there's a sizable gap in hype from Lawrence to the Jaden Daniels at 3. Like those two, Caleb and Trevor were number 1 and 2 by far.
Those were seen as the best quarterbacks within 2 or 3 years when they were drafted.
Yeah. 4 is Drake May, 5 Bryce Young, which Jack would erupt on if he were here. 6 is Zach Wilson, which did unfortunately for Jets fans. I'm sorry. 7, CJ Stroud. Mendoza came in at 8, JJ McCarthy 9, and then Trey Lance was at 10. And if I was just to finish the list, 11 through 18 was Anthony Richardson, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Bo Nix, 14, Cam Ward, Michael Penix Jr., Jackson Dart, 17, and Kenny Pickett last.
And that list is about how they were seen when they were drafted. Obviously, it's not NFL performance.
Yeah, Bo Nix, really, of those guys, 11 through 18. We'll see how Jackson Dart performs and Cam Ward over time. But most of those guys there, right? Richardson, Fields, Mac Jones, Pickett. I don't want to rule Penix a bust yet but it's trending that way. Haven't worked out. So what I'm going to ask you, Ziggy, and I'm going to ask you your question that you created for this segment. If you were a Viking fan and you had the number 1 overall pick this year, or you can just pretend to be a Raider fan if you can get your mind there. How much does Fernando Mendoza really excite you about your team moving forward? Because the guys who took Caleb and Lawrence and Jane Daniels, right, there is an electricity in the air. And for me, right, when we took McCarthy, it was more like, hope this thing works out. So if you were a Raider fan, what's the feeling about Mendoza?
I actually think between JJ McCarthy and CJ Stroud is almost exactly right for how I'd feel about it. Like, he's a competent player. There's a chance he'll be pretty good. There's a chance he'll even be great. But I'm not looking, like, I can't go on the highlight reel and look at stuff and say this guy's incredible. I don't see him as a guy likely to transform a franchise. And if I'm a Raiders fan, I'm not going to say more of the same if Mendoza is drafted, because I do think that he's a good prospect and an exciting enough player. But I don't like, Joe Burrow has been the big exception to this, and I'll eat my words if Mendoza looks great. But generally, guys who have had just one good year in college, no matter how good it was, really scares me. And Joe Burrow, like, Mendoza had a very good year last year. Joe Burrow was a different level, right? That was a player, he'd be near the top of this list if they included 2020.
Oh, yeah.
He'd probably be just below Trevor Lawrence.
The
Mendoza's
Joe Burrow,
not there.
No, the Joe Burrow, I remember they were showing comparisons to the Indiana and LSU teams, and they showed Burrow versus Mendoza, and most people are like, okay, like when you really dive into these stats, it's not actually close.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the numbers, a bunch of touchdowns, not a lot of interceptions, a natty, a Heisman, whatever. Fernando Mendoza is a player who, I mean, look, it's not Cam Ward. I'm a heck of a lot more excited about him than I was Cam Ward.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is actually has made me wonder about McCarthy a little bit and my excitement around him. Had McCarthy come out last year, there's a lot of people who think he would have been the number 1 quarterback in the draft, right? Ahead of Cam Ward. And I wonder, if the Vikings had taken JJ at 1, how my feelings about JJ would have been then, right? We took him at 10. There's a big difference in how you feel about that player coming in and the expectations you have. If you're the number 1 pick or if you're a top 3 pick, there would have been a lot more hype about him coming in. Instead, he was the 5th quarterback selected in his class. So Mendoza, would Mendoza have been selected over McCarthy, you think?
Yeah.
Probably, right? McCarthy would have been number 2 pick.
Mendoza had a better season than JJ ever did.
What I
can say this is, you, instead of feeling disappointed about McCarthy, you would feel furious. Yes. Not necessarily at McCarthy, but at the whole situation. Like, we finally pick a quarterback at the top. Getting the number 1 pick in the NFL draft is hard to do. Only one team does it every year. As many teams get that pick as win the Super Bowl. And when it goes poorly, you get very angry.
Yeah, 100%. What Mendoza would get me excited about if I were a Raider fan is at the very least, he made some big time plays in big time moments, right? Like Cam
he always did.
He always did
moments.
He always did. And he's a smart guy. He says the right things. He is clearly a good leader, someone that his teammates love playing for, someone who takes this all very seriously and has improved over time. Someone that you expect, right? Once he's in the league, with the way he seems to study and the way that he seems to develop, will get better. Now, yeah, maybe you're a little worried about where he's going to land in Vegas and what they have around him right now, but that might be a little bit of growing pains. But he made those big plays at Indiana. And it always bothers me. This is what bothered me about McCarthy. JJ had a couple big time throws, but they didn't rely on him very often in Michigan. I mean, he was not the foundation of that team. Very good, yes, but he was not the foundation where Mendoza came in and he was, he changed the program from the player standpoint.
Yeah, the only reason they didn't always rely on him was just because the rest of the roster was stacked. And but usually, when the time came, every time, he could put up 60 points in a game if you needed him to.
And what I look at for these quarterbacks, right? Cam Ward didn't really have, and I know he won the Heisman, right? But he didn't really have. Did he win the Heisman? No, he came second, right behind what's his face, Travis Hunter.
Yeah,
but like those other guys, yes, they did win the Heisman. Like Jaden Daniels won the Heisman, right? Trevor Lawrence, we know, was sensational. Caleb Williams was sensational. There's like certain things that you can look at and say, okay, they were really, really good in college, and it was obvious. JJ didn't always get that feeling with them. Kenny Pickett was awesome at Pittsburgh, but like it didn't translate into anything.
He wasn't that awesome at Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he was clearly overrated, and I mean that probably happened. Pittsburgh guy, the Steelers took him, right?
Well, I just mean they wanted a quarterback, and there was truly no one else in that draft. Sorry, Malik Willis. That was one of the worst quarterback drafts you've ever seen.
Anthony Richardson had some wow moments, but you're drafting more for potential there. Yeah, Stroud would have been. I wonder if you had taken the training wheels off of CJ earlier in his career at Ohio State, and not just for the last game against Georgia. How you feel about him? But Mendoza, at the very least, there are things that you can look at on the field and go like, okay. When it mattered most, he was great. He was great in the national championship, right? In the biggest game, he was phenomenal. I mean, that run that he had, right, to basically lock up the Natty was, and it'll be an all-time play in college football.
Even that Penn State throw, we all forget about that because that was a regular season game. That drive he led against Penn State was unbelievable.
Yeah. And like, there are no concerns coming into this of, we didn't see it enough from him. So
there was only 1 year, right? You compare this to someone like Trevor Lawrence or Caleb Williams, who you saw it from multiple years. But yeah,
like you feel good about what you're getting in Fernando Mendoza, and I'd be excited at that. He's not on the level of a Caleb Williams or a Trevor Lawrence from the excitement level, but you know what you're getting, and you're hoping that he can turn into, like people are saying, it could be Jared Goff or Kirk Cousins. I think with the number 1 overall pick, you're hoping for a little bit better than that. Your hope is, but Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins are very good quarterbacks. I mean,
if you're getting a Pro Bowl level quarterback who's one of the top 10 guys in the NFL, you should be thrilled.
You should be thrilled, but I still think it's okay to hope for more.
Sure,
because those two,
and I think Mendoza could be.
And there are moments where both those guys were top 10 QBs in football. So I think you should be excited, and it might take a little bit of time, but if Mendoza comes in and is good right away, we've seen these turnarounds happen fast. So I've been saying this for a while. I think the Raiders, when we were talking about the head coach openings this offseason, there's real excitement around the Raiders if you believe in Fernando Mendoza.
And you should be thrilled as Mendoza and as a Raiders fan. They're telling every team at the Combine, we're not starting Mendoza week 1.
Well, that's maybe that should make us feel better about the Geno Smith Vikings stuff. You have to imagine that they are planning on Geno, I think. They
might just throw out a sacrificial lamb if someone wants to.
That could be. Yeah.
But you need someone to take the sacks.
So, okay. So let's do this. 1 to 10 excitement. Where would you be, a Raiders fan?
All things considered, right? We're considering it's the number 1 overall pick and the rest.
Yep.
I'd put it at between a 6.5 and a 7.
Yeah. I think
I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm not thrilled, but I'm not disappointed either.
Yeah, I think I'd come in just below a 7, where 7's like, yeah, I'm pretty excited. I'd be like, yeah, I'm fairly excited about this.
I mean, look, since 2002, you've had one game over 500 or one season over 500. You need something in Vegas. And that one season you went over 500, you got bounced in the first round of the playoffs.
It is. I mean, it's a tall task for Vegas. You got rookie coming in, rookie head coach, and your division is Mahomes and Andy Reid, the Sean Payton-led Broncos, who were the 1 seed, and Harbaugh and Herbert and the Chargers, who, yes, collapsed in the playoffs, but are still getting to the playoffs. I mean, it's a tall task for them. All right, we'll finish up here with a little more NFC North talk, Ziggy. That's okay with you. First off, the Lions. Actually, I want to read these Vikings things very quickly. It sounds like, pretty much confirmed, the Vikings will be releasing or trading, probably releasing, Aaron Jones and Javon Hargrave at some point in March here. It's going to save them $18.65 million in cap space. We could see some more cap casualties with Jonathan Allen and Ryan Kelly coming up here. But Vikings legend Aaron Jones will no longer be on the team going into next season. Sad. But understandable.
Can we get a Vikings rumor I'm excited to hear?
No, it's all bad.
Just one? It's just bad. One?
Like, those are, I think those are the right decisions. It's just sad to see, jokes aside about Aaron Jones being an all-time Viking to mess with the Packers fans. Aaron Jones is a great team leader there. The culture change he had, he had one of the best seasons of his career in 2024. And last year, he's an older running back. Injuries are catching up. Jordan Mason took over. It's understandable, but yeah, please, right, Ziggy? Can we get some sort of excitement?
Like other teams in the NFC North are being connected with exciting players, or
at least exciting, rumors.
Us, it's like, look, maybe you're going to get crapped on. Maybe you're going to get peed on. Maybe hail's going to come.
Could be
Pick
both.
Whichever one you want.
It could be both. One of the rumors that did come out on the Lions that was quickly refuted by their player. A report came out that the David Montgomery wants out of Detroit. The Lions want a day 3 pick, maybe even as high as a fifth round pick. And Montgomery tweeted out, "Damn, Demo told you that." So trading or cutting Montgomery would save them $3.5 million, or trading him would save them $3.5 million in cap space. If you're a Lions fan, would you? I wonder if you traded Montgomery and you're a Lions fan. Obviously, it would be a little sad to see him go. Right? I think he's still a very good player at 28, but it does feel like when he's on the field as an opponent, you take a bit of a sigh of a relief, right? With Jahmyr Gibbs has just become a 3-down back who's so dynamic. Is there a place for Demo anymore?
Well, this is why I know David Montgomery said this isn't true. And maybe it's the Lions putting that out rather than Montgomery.
Yeah.
Like Brad Holmes, here's something that's verifiable. Brad Holmes came out to the media and said, "I've been talking with David's agent. There's a healthy dialogue. We'd love to have him, but a player has to want to be in a certain place too." I'll tell you what I think David Montgomery wants. I think David Montgomery wants to go back to 2023.
Totally.
When he split carries with Jahmyr Gibbs and had a bigger role in the offense. But if you had to guess, right, Montgomery's role decreased significantly last year. Do you think the Lions, I know they didn't have a great year, but do you think the odds are, like, if you have to guess, is Montgomery have a bigger role or a smaller role next year with the Lions?
You think smaller. You at this point in time, you think that role gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And yes, despite what David's saying, you have to imagine that he's sitting there at 28, right? An age for running backs where it's starting to end. It's starting to dwindle down.
You want to get one more big deal.
Yeah, you want that last big deal. You want that last opportunity to really play. And I have to imagine that he wants to go somewhere else. It's hard not to think that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'd like to stay in Detroit and have a big role. But if that's not a possibility, his agent is certainly shopping him, right? These rumors are coming from somewhere.
He's still good. I still think he's a good running back.
Yeah, I think
but he's not Jahmyr Gibbs.
No, what he is he's a slightly above average NFL running back.
What would be my point of contention if I were David Montgomery is, depending on where you can go, like, would you rather have the reduced role in Detroit and have a chance to win a Super Bowl because I still think the Lions are Super Bowl contenders. I know they had a down year. Or if you got shipped somewhere, I'm trying to think like who could, off the top of my head, I can't think of who could like use him right now. But if you went somewhere where you're going to have an increased playing time, maybe a little bit bigger contract, I don't know. Would the contract even change? Right? I mean, how much longer is he under contract for?
His contract expires in 2027.
So I guess maybe if you get traded, you'd sign an extension, something like that. But whatever. Even if you get more money, would you want to go somewhere where you have an increased role, but you're not going to win? I don't know. That's a question for David Montgomery. I feel like I get why you'd want to continue playing, right? Getting more playing time. But because Jahmyr Gibbs is he's so good that you can't take him off the field right now.
Yeah, but like if you look at the teams that really want running backs, right? Like Kansas City really wants a running back. Houston desperately needs a running back. Denver could use a good running back. Like these are the teams that are available. If he gets to pick where he goes, right? Say the Lions.
You could still be very competitive, yeah.
There are a lot of teams that could really use a player like him where he'd have a chance to be, if not the surefire RB1, at least split time. And it looks like he's not going to get to do in Detroit.
I didn't mean to make it sound like I don't think he's valuable to Detroit at the top of this segment where I was saying.
I don't think that's how you sounded.
Yeah, because he still is. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs is a human, right? I mean, I know sometimes it doesn't look it, but he does need to rest. And when you have a guy like David Montgomery who can come in and give him a spell for a series, that's really valuable. You do. I was going to say like you don't miss a beat. I mean, you do miss a couple beats because Gibbs' explosiveness is hard to replicate.
Well, but if you're the Detroit Lions, David Montgomery is the 11th highest paid running back in the NFL. Do you want to pay a guy a top 12 salary to be relief for your player you actually want on the field?
Yeah. No, I know. It's
like the relationship's been great. They've been very productive together, but I think it's run its course.
It's got to the point, and it's because Gibbs has gotten so good. That's really what it comes down to.
If Gibbs were anything other than an all-world talent, it would be different.
Yeah. So my guess, if I had to put money on it right now, I think Montgomery will be somewhere else.
I agree. I have a hard time seeing when the GM is saying we need him to want to come back, he's gone.
And on the other side of the NFC North, the first place Chicago Bears, right? The last place Lions to the first place Bears, they will be shopping Tremaine Edmonds, who they gave permission to seek a trade earlier in the week. Just 27 years old. There seems to actually be a market for him right now between the Titans,
which I find shocking,
and Giants. Yeah, the Titans, Raiders, and Giants are all teams that seem to have interest.
Tremaine Edmonds is a good player, but he is paid a comically large salary.
Cutting him or trading him would save Chicago $15 million. They're a team that's over the cap.
Coming back.
The Bears maybe would get a late day 3 pick for him. But
I mean, if Chicago gets anything, that's a thrill.
But the Bears have a few interesting decisions to make. I think Cole Kmet will be back. DeAndre Swift, I think, will be back as well. I mean, they have an interesting offseason ahead of them. We know they have to figure out something at left tackle until Ozzie Trapillo can come back. But the defense is right. The secondary, we said with Andy, a lot of guys in the secondary that they need to make decisions on. And it's, if you're going to be moving on from Edmonds, there's just so many moving pieces on that defense that, how are you going to improve if you're Chicago?
For Chicago, it's less about the defense was great last year, but you can't expect them to repeat that performance.
The turnover differential, especially.
Yeah, exactly. They're just teams don't repeat those kinds of performances in the NFL, and that's okay. That happens. But the question you have to face if you're Chicago is you've got this defense. A lot of guys are going to become free agents. Do you want to run it back with a lot of the same players and hope that while they won't be at that level, that they'll continue to sort of outperform how everyone else sees them? I mean, you can tell from the coughing. I'm not sure it's a good idea. Or are you going to try and hit free agency, bring in some new guys and see what happens? Like, this is really... Bears fans have been up and down on polls since he got there. This offseason is the huge test because it's a lot easier to go from mediocre to good than it is to go from good to great.
No, and I think
Chicago, the expectation next year, winning a playoff, like making the playoffs, winning the division is not going to be enough for Bears fans next year. They want it all.
I think the Bears are the team to circle heading into next year. Like, they're the team to keep your eye on because if they are able to take a leap, it's going to get scary in the NFC. Like they have that kind of potential. And yeah, this offseason with what they're going to do on defense, is Caleb going to take the jump, right? We know they set the really high standard for him of 4,000 yards and 70% completion percentage. His completion percentage came in at 58.1%, which is, well below league average. And only one QB in the league, by the way. Drake May hit that standard that they set. But if Caleb's able to clean up some of the things that they would like to clean up, and he enters that elite conversation of quarterbacks, which I think is possible, the Bears are going to be a really scary team. And if they make that jump from 1 year contender to, okay, they're perennial contenders in the NFC, it is a dangerous time for guys like us who are Vikings fans, where we're going to have Chicago and Green Bay, battling it out for years. And Detroit is also a very talented team. I think Chicago is the team to circle with what they do and whether or not their quarterback takes that next step. Because they were very close this year, right? An overtime game away from going to the NFC Championship already.
But this is what I mean, man. It's like, if you're a Vikings fan, the Bears, it's an exciting offseason. The Lions, it's an exciting offseason. The Packers, it's an exciting offseason.
But I don't know if I'd even say exciting for these teams. It's important.
They get to be optimistic about what's going to be on the field.
Yeah, I'd call it an important offseason in that you can, if you make a series of right decisions, you will be a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, a fan of every single one of these teams is going to be leaving this offseason saying, we can win a Super Bowl next year. The division's up.
100%. In training camp in the NFC North, all the teams, and the Vikings fans, by the way, will also convince themselves of this.
But we'll be wrong.
But we'll probably just be wrong. Green Bay is a little bit more, let's just get back to who we were, right? Let's get these guys healthy. Chicago has some, major question marks that they need to get answered. And Detroit's a weird one. They just ended last season not feeling anything like the Lions team that we're accustomed to. I think they have a little bit of soul searching to do. That Green Bay needs to get healthy. Chicago needs to get the defensive decisions correct. Detroit needs to kind of challenge itself again and remember, to quote the Lion King, to remember who you are. Because it did not feel like the team we were accustomed to. And the Vikings are just a shit show. Like, who even knows what we're going to do?
Well, the Vikings are who we thought they were.
Yeah. All right, we'll wrap it up there. A fun combine show there. Some big stories come out of the combine. Draft process gets fun. I always enjoy it. And we'll have a lot more draft coverage. Maybe some mock draft Mondays. We'll do a little bit more mock drafting on the channel this offseason. So fun to do a Monday show. Ziggy, thanks for hopping on. Jack and Zach should be back later this week. And we'll see you guys with more content.